Good morning, boys and girls. This is our first test of our smart software. Pretty much, this is how, let's see what it does since I really played with it. There it is. This is how pretty much we're going to be running the class this entire summer. Now, the way it will work is, every morning from 5:30 to 6:30, I'll come up with some great engaging lesson that we're going to complete during the day that will actually correspond with what we're doing in English 4. So, today I got up and what I said was, let's see what our curriculum is. Now, you don't have to worry about what all the gobbledygook is here, but this basically is our curriculum. And this right here, located on the left-hand side, is actually what we are choosing to do in our curriculum this semester, this 6 weeks. Now, they just look like numbers to you, I realize. But in actuality, these are very important items that have to be completed. And that's what we're up to doing right now. So, if you notice, Unit 1 is exploring British literature. Again, I'm a real person. One of you yesterday talked on E2020, the British literature being kind of old, hard to read, etc. But when you actually look at what exploring British literature is supposed to be, what you discover is that there's no rule that says it has to be old British literature written around about the Saxons and whatnot, the way it's been taught over the years. Instead, when we work our way through, what we discover is we need to determine the meaning of technical academic words, analyze textual context, use relationships between words, and as we work our way through, I'm not going to read every single one of these. But the one in which they really work with is relate character settings and themes of a literary work to the historical, social, and economic ideas of the time. They always combine that with, give me a second, demonstrate familiarity with works of fiction by British authors from each major literary period. Now this is where it gets challenging. We are going to have to do a little bit of the older literature. It doesn't mean I have to do all of it. So what we're going to do is do a snipping of each, but that's going to be later. Instead, where I'm going to choose to concentrate on today, if we work our way down through all this, here. This is the teak we're going to begin with. This is what the state of Texas says you will learn. We're going to work primarily these first 2 days of my class with English 14A. Write an engaging story with a well-developed conflict and resolution, a clear theme, complex and non-stereotypical characters, a range of literary strategies, dialogue, suspense, and devices to enhance the plot, and sensory details that define mood or tone. On this side right here, they talk about what it is. And this is the definition we'll use. If you said, well, sir, I don't know what dialogue was. Well, that's lines spoken between characters in fiction or a play. What's suspense? The sustained interest created by the buildup of events and delayed resolution of the plot's conflict. But the most important problem, and this is what I've seen in the past of teaching, is our students have a problem with this. A well-developed conflict and resolution with interesting and believable characters. Students most often tell a story, they don't write a story. There's a difference between tell and write and tell and show, and this is what I'm really going to talk about. Now, I could be traditional and just say, I want you to do it. That's not what we're done. And even when we're done with it, there's a very distinct steps that we have to go through. First thing we always have to do when we work on any sort of story is, number one, we have to do some sort of pre-write. A pre-write means you do a strategy for gathering ideas. The most important word here when we work through this, and I'll be very, very honest on this, is in fact this part right here. Strategy. Gathering ideas without a purpose usually will mean that you won't put anything together. It's a compliance piece. We do it because the teacher told us to. And that's not what I want ever for us to do in my class. We're going to have a full, engaged strategy. And for most of the day, I will tell you we're going to be working on the pre-write. However, that's not where we're going to end. The second thing is the drafting. This is when you put your ideas down in an essay for the first time. I think I'm missing a T. There. All right. Where do the ideas come from? Well, you see, this is where we have the ideas right here. Do you notice? Ideas and ideas. They are linked together. They are not separate in any way, shape, or form. So we gather these ideas together. The next thing that we do, and by the way, notice what the word I use. I use the word drafting. A draft means it's not finished in any way, shape, or form. Too often as English teachers, we're just so happy that our students write words on a page that honestly we sit back and go, all right, phew, we're done. Students, you have suffered through the writing process. You now never have to look at this again. That's not what we're going to do in this class. Our third thing is revision. Now, revision is a step that's always skipped. That's when you refine. Refine the organization. Sorry about that, but I ran out of room on my screen. Structure and ideas contained within the draft. Now, again, notice a word repeats. I'm not doing this by accident. The ideas always, 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 always come from that first step, come from this pre-write. If you don't do a pre-write, your ideas are weak. If your ideas are weak, then your essay, in fact, is pretty weak as well. Notice something that's not there. This is not editing. It is not editing yet. A revision means look at the way you're writing that paper. Don't yet worry about your spelling. Don't yet worry about your capitalization. Let's get the ideas in a particular order. When one organizes an essay, it's not accidental. It's not haphazard. It's not that you sit down, the world disappears, you start at the top of the page and you end at the bottom of the page. In no way is that what essay writing is. You write the essay, and then you sit down and go, does that sentence belong here? It might be a perfectly well-constructed sentence, but you have to move it. What if you use the word I like in 3 sentences back to back? You'll get sick of that word. Change the word. This is the heart of what revision is. Our fourth step. This is the editing. This is correcting errors in grammar and mechanics. This is your traditional thing that we've all gone through. But the important part is you do not do the editing until after you revise, and let me explain to you why. Let's say you flip-flop them. Let's pretend that you do your editing first. You say, you know what? I've written that draft. I think it's pretty good, so I'm just going to go right to editing. Well, then you correct everything in your editing, and guess what happens? When you read it, you realize, oh no, it doesn't sound any good. Which means you're going to have to re-edit again. However, most students just never go back and re-edit. So important. When I teach you how to do this, we're going to revise first, and then we're going to edit. And after you've edited, with all those wonderful marks and whatnot, the final part is final draft. I'm going to call it a clean. By the way, whenever somebody puts quotation marks around a word, what they're saying is that temporarily, that word does not necessarily mean its standard definition. In this particular case, clean means it's free of editing marks, erasures, anything that would resemble a draft. A clean copy of the work in the desired format. Every teacher you ever have in any English class is going to want their work a certain way, in a certain order, with a certain font. I will tell you that in my life, I have a hate for Helvetica. I really don't like Helvetica. I can't stand it. And by the way, one of the issues I may give you later on as we go through the class is, why does Mr. Hill hate Helvetica fonts? There's a story behind it. You'll find that I am a storyteller. And as we work through the years, we will go ahead and put it together. And if you're just curious, usually mine is always going to be 12 point times New Roman double spaced. And I always, here's a biggie, standard margins. Now, I'm going to give you another piece of advice. I expect that most of you will be typing your essays. Therefore, you will always get a word count. You see, before the days of word processors, students would hear a 2-word essay, and guess what they would do? They think it would be really, 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 really cool if they're like, he wants a 2-page paper, so I will magically make the 12 point 18 point. Woo! They would triple space. I mean, honestly, as if the teacher wouldn't notice it. What's always fun is even when we point it out as teachers, the students feign ignorance, going, well, I didn't know. So, I will always, always, always use word count because of that. All right. This is pretty much enough of what I'm going to tell you about what we're doing this particular class. So now it's time for us to go and begin the next stage of what we're up to. Here's the next part. This is all my talk. I told you the teak that we're going to be working with, the expectation that we're going to be using, let me close that window down, is going to be write an engaging story with a well-developed conflict and resolution, a clear theme, complex non-stereotypical characters, a range of literary strategies, e.g. by the means, for example, dialogue and suspense, devices to enhance the plot, and sensory details that define the tone or the mood. Well, that sounds all well and good. Here it is. Let me get back to a movable. And this is what we're going to do. And again, I told you, I won't leave you just out to dry. We're going to work on building this expectation. Now, our most important thing when we look at it, you have to look at it in parts. And here are going to be our parts. It has to be engaging. Guys, if you write a boring story, it doesn't count. All right, everyone, if you notice a bump in the recording, it's because I got a phone call. I can hit pause, and I apologize for that. Anyways, so it has to be engaging. I want to read it. How is it going to be engaging? You have to have a well-developed conflict and resolution. Your conflict is your problem that you're going to face within the story. It drives the story. If you saw the summer movies, you watched Iron Man 3, the conflict was Tony Stark overcoming these problems with his technology. The entirety of the movie, he had armor 42, which he thought was the biggest and best armor. The problem was he had to overcome his technology. And it wasn't until the little boy, and I'm sorry if I'm ruining the movie, pause for 30 seconds and skip over this if you need to. It wasn't until he said, "You're a mechanic, fix it," did he finally overcome it. So that's what a conflict is. The resolution is when your problem is finally solved. When we get to go, oh, that's it. A theme. Stories have to have a message. I call them fortune cookie statements. It's the message the story is trying to give to you. And we're going to talk more about that later. And complex and non-stereotypical characters. When we write, too often we play off a stereotype. A stereotype is a character that everyone knows and can predict the actions. The best characters have no predictable actions. And you need to have also a range of literary strategies. And whenever they give things that are precise, like dialogue and suspense, I'm going to require you to have dialogue and suspense because we need to have them. But you don't just put them in there. What do? They enhance the plot. Your plot is your story. And you also have to include sensory details. Sensory details make you show the story, experience the story, that define the mood or the tone. Your mood and your tone essentially is the emotion being conveyed. If you notice, that is what I like to call a lot. By the way, for those of you who know this, you know that a lot is in fact not a word. A lot is in fact quite much a grammar error. By the way, in this particular case, it's purposeful. So, we need to write a lot. In order to write a lot, we're going to have steps. And believe it or not, we're almost to the point where we get to now actually get to the assignment. And I hope as we continue along with our summer school year, you don't skip over all the fun stuff in my clever calligraphy to get to this point. So how do we begin to write this story? Well, I'm going to tell you that we're going to actually begin with the idea of characters. And the way we're going to work with characters is, today I'm going to start you thinking about a character. And I'm going to give you the first concept that you're going to learn. If you take it this class, you're about to change your perspective of the world. Usually your literature is divided into two types, fiction versus nonfiction. I'm not going to ask you what's the difference, because I know you guys are smart enough to say that fiction is false and nonfiction is true. And what you see is you see this as an absolute. There is a giant brick wall between them. Let me draw my bricks. There's a giant brick wall. You cannot cross the path. Fiction cannot be nonfiction. Nonfiction can be not nonfiction. I'm telling you that's not true. Here's what you need to learn. And this is what we're going to learn as we work our way through this. It's quite a bit more complex. Fiction and nonfiction is a range, where here it's 100% false, and this one is 100% true. There's actually a range here. If you've ever heard of the Harry Potter books, and I'm not advertising for J.K. Rowling, who has more money than God, but if you think she did not meet somewhere in her life a character like the little blonde boy who's really a snot in the story, I forget his name, a little bully. You don't think she experienced a bully sometime in her life? Hermione Granger is the nerdy girl who knows everything. She really wants to fit in but doesn't know how. You mean to tell me you don't think J.K. Rowling met somebody like that in her life? You don't think she met someone like Ron, the tag-along? And that's what Ron is, by the way. I feel sorry for Ron. He's a tag-along. He's never the most important part of the story, no matter how much she tried to make him. Ron would be nobody without Harry. That's what I'm getting you to see. It is not an absolute. It is a range. With that in mind, today we're going to work with the most believable character you know. The most believable character that you know is this person right here. It is you. Today we're going to start writing a work of fiction. But to start with the work of fiction, we're going to work with a believable character. We're going to work with you. Here is our first assignment. Assignment number 1. Assignment 1 is as follows. I want you on a sheet of paper to create what's called a circle map. And in the middle of this circle map, I want you to put me. Okay? And around that me, I want you to draw a bigger circle. Yes, my circle looks like a smashed oval, but that's okay. And you want to do this on a fairly large sheet of paper, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. And within here, I want you to put everything in here that defines you. So, here's me. What defines me? I've been a teacher for 15 years. I have one daughter. I play video games. I write. I'm going to underline that. I like to write. I am curious about the world. I like to play golf. Badly. What else do I do? What else defines me? I am from Furious. I have only worked in Alice and Kingsville. I love technology. I mean, I just absolutely love technology. I am a risk take. Let's see. Let me erase that. I take chances. I always take on more. In other words, when they said, I need you to teach summer school, I said, how do I do it? And I did it anyways. That's just who I am. What else do I do? I like to travel. I attend college. I want to be an administrator. These are all things that define me. Now, I want you to notice something. That bubble got really full really quick. The more you write here, the more you will be. Now, when you're done with assignment 1 and you like your bubble, here's what you need to do. You need to take a good picture and send to my email. Now, for those of you actually attending school, if you don't have a camera phone that really can take a good enough picture where I can read this information, go to, let me right here, go to Miss Renee Garcia. She can scan this on our copy machine and email the scan if you can't take a good picture. If you take a picture and you can zoom in and you can read what you wrote, it's fine. Some of you I know write very small. You need to write a little bigger if we're going to pull this off. But that's only one part of the assignment. So you've done that. So let me go ahead and give you then assignment 2. So here's assignment 2. All right. The point of the circle map was to define. Go up here. Define is exactly what you're out to do. That's the only thing it's up to do. It defines. Now, coming down here, we're no longer defining. We are describe. And think back to what you learned many, many years ago. We describe with adjectives. And the way we're going to describe is through something I call a bubble map. Once again, you're going to start in the middle with me. Hello, there I am. All right, here's the rule. You can only describe yourself with one-word adjectives. So, me, I'm going to describe myself as hard working. You draw a circle around it, and you draw a line. Some of you right now are going, Mr. Hill, you said one word. That's right, I did say one word. However, when you put a hyphen, it makes it one word. Now, here's the more important part. How do I describe myself as hardworking? Well, I come up here and I look. I always take on more. Notice, the always take on more that's right here sets up my adjective. Now, what else about me that describes me? I am creative. How am I creative? What makes me creative? I love technology. I love to write. I'm curious about the world. Now notice I'm like, ooh, curious about the world. Come back down here. Curious. You see, sometimes when you define yourself, you accidentally put in adjectives. What else is I going to put up here? I like to play golf badly. How many of y'all do things that you know you're terrible at? I mean, really. That you say, I stink at this, but I'm going to do it just the same. What this means is, I am cavalier. That defines me. It describes me, rather. Ignore that last part. I have a very cavalier attitude towards the world. Let's see. I attend college. I have the one daughter. Because I have the one daughter, I'm going to put I'm loving. Love my kid. So I'm going to put that as well. So I go back up here. I like to play video games. What this also means, if I like to play video games, which many of you I'm sure like to do, this means I'm probably also well-rounded. There's that hyphen again. Well-rounded means I like to do many things. I can float between many, many circles. What else can I put to describe me? See, Alice in Kingsville, when I take a job, I don't leave a job. You know, you meet many people who move around, move around, move around. I am immobile. That's one way to put it, but I prefer to put loyal. I'm always loyal to my job. Even if it frustrates me, I stick with it. Let's see, what else can I put here? Take chances. I want to be an administrator. Did I put goal-oriented? No, I didn't. So let's go ahead and put goal-oriented. Goal-oriented. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to read. This was your assignment 2. Again, you have to have adjectives. Now, you're probably like, when is he going to end? I'm going to end in just a minute. There's one final part of the assignment we want for today. And this is going to require you to go to the quick topic discussion board. The final assignment for today is this. You have to do the following. You've already completed your circle map. You've created your bubble map. More importantly, you see my bubble and my circle map. There are 2 parts to assignment 3. You're going to go to quick topic. Most of you have already set up your accounts on here. If you have not, if you go onto the syllabus I sent you in your email and you control-click it, you will join that topic. That's step 1. On quick topic, there are 2 prompts. Read the prompts and address both prompts. Now, you notice I'm being purposely vague here. The reason why I'm being vague is because I want you to read what's on the quick topic. Number 1 prompt, you will answer. The number 2 prompt, you will answer. But on the number 2 prompt, you're also going to have to respond. Respond means you look at what someone else wrote, and that's what you're going to talk with. Understand, you are not going to respond to number 1. You will not respond to number 1. You will only respond to number 2. That's the only one. And there's a reason for it. It's because number 2, you're not talking about yourself. So number 1 might be a more personal response. Therefore, I don't want people responding to yourself. Y'all can respond to me as much as possible. And again, until you read what's on the quick topic, you won't understand. So, here's how you will get graded. Number 1, it's going to be on your circle map. For your circle map, you must have at least 10 items. There it goes. Okay, 10 items that define. And you're sitting there going, well, Mr. Hill, what if I just did 7? Well, you get 7 out of the 10 points. Number 2 is your bubble map. This is 10 words that Describe. All right? And again, if you do 7, you get 7 out of 10 points. Number 3 is response number 1 on quick topic. And the reason you're going to get 10 points on this, but there's some rules to it. 10 points based on thought and right grammar. Well, what is thought? I want you to understand that the thought that's going to come from this, the thought that you're going to write on, this thought is actually going to relate back to the first two. So if, let me draw another arrow so you know. If there's a situation where you only did a few points for number 1 and number 2, understand for you to get to points on number 3 is going to be much more difficult. They're interrelated assignments. All right, so we took care of that. Number 4 is going to be response number 2 on quick topic. Response number 2 on quick topic, again, 10 points on thought and grammar. And if you notice, we have now 10, 20, 30, 40. 40 is not a good number. So, number 5. Number 5 is responses to other classmates. What I mean by that is, on the quick topic, you're going to have your number 2. Your number 2, you're going to, first of all, answer it, and then you need to respond to 2 other students. Okay? You hit the 2, you're fine. And you notice I didn't put grammar here. This isn't the point. But for you to even get this to qualify, it has to be 2 things. And it's kind of a nebulous thing. It needs to be respect. You need to show respect and thought. All right. Due dates. Because you're always going to ask that. You have just spent about 40 minutes listening to me ramble on in front of a board. And I'm sorry that today wasn't very entertaining, but trust me, later on you're going to see me draw cartoons of the Wizard of Oz, and you're going to laugh your little tails off. So, when is this due? I get up at 5:30 each morning to construct the lessons for this course. So, your due deadline is 6 o'clock a.m. And today's the 11th, June 12th. Warning, if you're going to respond to somebody else, that's going to be a problem. And I'm even going to give you one other part. And this also is important. Number 5 needs you to respond to 2 other student responses. Let's say Star. I know you're floating around there listening to me. Star gets on early today, does all her work, and is just waiting to respond to 2 other students. And you guys don't post until later tonight. I will take that into consideration with Star and say, you know what, she wanted to respond but could not do it because of the students. I will still give her the points. So, I stress this to you. You need to get this done as early as possible so we can participate. Furthermore, when you complete these other components, do not throw them away. I told you, the whole point of everything we're doing here, everything that we're working on today, is to write an engaging story. The entirety of the purpose today is for you to create a really, really, really great character. To create a really believable character. And the way you start with a believable character is to create a believable situation. Now, if some of you have problems playing this video, I am at work today. I can go give you a copy of it if you wish to, or set you up in one of the computer labs to video it. All right? Thank you very much for your time here. I will send you email with instructions on how to get this. I will talk to you later.